I'm not good at waiting. I'm not good at waiting. Like lines, I don't even like seeing other people stand in lines. Once I dropped my kids off at school, I've done it once, and I was walking home, and I saw this line of 30 or 40 people at 8 a.m. in front of this building. There was no signage on the building. So I went up and I asked, I was like, what's this line for? And this woman goes, oh, they released a new sneaker. And I had to hold myself back from saying, oh, you should probably kill yourself. I didn't say that, I thought it. And I'm sure there's probably a sneakerhead in the audience, and I want you to hear this. You should be embarrassed. I know you think you look cool in your $600 Air Jordans, but all we see is someone that's gonna need to borrow money. But I have friends like that. They spend all their money on sneakers. And I would never encourage someone to do drugs, but occasionally I'll ask them, I'm like, have you tried drugs? There's never a line for drugs. But we all encounter these mystery lines. One time I was driving to a show and I started passing all these people sitting in their car, lined up, dozens and dozens of cars. When I finally got to the front, I realized it was a line for Chick-fil-A. And understandably, my first thought was, oh my God, Chick-fil-A released a new sneaker. Now, I like Chick-fil-A, but this line was at least an hour 15 for drive-through Chick-fil-A. And I'm no chef, but in that time, I'm pretty confident I could have deep fried a chicken, eaten it, and had diarrhea. Oh, now you like the diarrhea jokes, huh? You appreciate the diarrhea callback. Which makes sense, because what is diarrhea but a callback to what you ate earlier? Oh, that's right, the burger had jalapenos. His entire show was death and diarrhea. I mentioned Mexico a bunch in this show, and not just because I'm Mexican. I've been lucky enough to go to Mexico a couple times. Last time I went to Mexico City, and when we were driving from the airport, we started passing all these billboards for hot air balloon rides, and my daughters were so excited. They're like, oh my God, hot air balloon rides, can we do that, can we do that? And my daughters are so sweet, and as any parent will tell you, the pandemic's been especially hard on children, so I turned to them and I said, no. Because I was suspicious. I had only seen balloon rides in the Wizard of Oz or Viagra commercials. But when I got to my hotel, the concierge gave me a number, so I called. They explained how much it would cost, that I'd have to sign a waiver, and that someone would pick us up at 5 a.m. And I was like, in the morning? Can we get a later flight? I mean, we just want to go in a balloon. We're not looking to work out with Mark Wahlberg. But it was obvious 5 a.m. was the only option. So then I had to go back to my daughters who were on spring break and explain that there were no spots available. No. The next morning we were picked up at 5 a.m. in a filthy van, and we drove for 2 hours in the dark like we were participating in a hostage exchange. I looked at my sweet daughters, I'm like, what am I doing? But I convinced myself, these people know what they're doing. This is their business. They know what they're doing. And when we finally got to the balloon side, I realized, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Now, I've never assembled a hot air balloon, and from what I observed, neither had any employee. Everyone was looking at each other going like if you got on a plane and you looked in the cockpit and the pilot was like, you'd be concerned. So I'm not embarrassed to admit this. I evaluated the situation. I thought, I'm here with my teenage daughters. I'm in a country where I don't speak the language, and I don't think these people know what they're doing. So I made the executive decision that my daughters and I would die in a balloon crash. Mainly because we had driven 2 hours. We've all done that. You're like, well, we're here. I assumed eventually there'd be a safety briefing. There'd have to be a safety briefing. There was never a safety briefing. We just stood there watching these people put together these balloons. And at one point, a guy standing next to one of the balloons pointed to me and my daughters and then pointed to the balloon. He didn't say anything, he just pointed. So later on, if there was an investigation, he could say, I didn't tell him to get in the balloon. I was pointing to the people behind him. And like the sheep we are, we just started walking towards the balloon. I remember thinking, this doesn't make sense. But nothing about a hot air balloon ride is logical. It's just a dumb idea that was somehow pitched to a moron. You know, some idiot was like, I think I've come up with a form of transportation which is slightly slower than walking. That should have been the end of it. But there was a moron there going, let's do it, what do you need? Let's do it. And the guy was like, well, all I would need is a balloon the size of a building, an enormous Easter basket, and a blowtorch. And the moron's like, let's do it. Can the balloon look like we stole it from the gay pride parade? I don't see why not. We eventually reached the basket of our balloon. By the way, it was a physical basket made of wicker. Wicker! You know that stuff that can barely carry your laundry? It was supposed to cart my fat ass through the sky. Now the pointing guy was motioning for us to get in the basket. There was no ladder. My daughters got in fine. I kind of tried to climb in this gigantic Easter basket like I was shooting a scene from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. When I landed, I heard a crunch, and I looked up and I saw flames, and I was like, am I already dead? In our balloon basket was our balloon pilot. That feels like a generous title. Pilot. I'm not saying we should call them rope pullers, but if there was an emergency, is anyone a pilot here? I'm a pilot. Oh, thank God, we need someone to fly the plane. Well, I'm a balloon pilot. But don't worry, just show me where the rope is. Our balloon pilot was arguing with someone on a walkie-talkie, and I don't speak Spanish, but from what I pieced together, he was telling someone, don't make me do this, I don't want to die. I don't speak Spanish, so I just kept listening for the word problemo. Did he say problemo or poblano? Hopefully he's ordering a spicy lunch. Then this very official-looking woman came up and spoke the only English we heard all day. She looked right at me and she said, when you land, you bounce. And then she left. I wasn't sure if that was a prediction or directions, but I was pretty confident that was a safety briefing. Then immediately we started floating, and I was overcome by this feeling of, let's go back down. Why don't we go back down? Because not only were we floating, we were drifting. It was obvious the pilot's not steering. He's just adding hot air so we can float. He's like, the loudest, most obnoxious. Luckily, our pilot would only do it when I was talking. I'm like, girls, be careful. During the entire trip, I was like, and I thought the only thing worse than hearing during a balloon trip would be not hearing it. I spent most of the trip looking down, wondering where we're gonna land, only seeing places I didn't want to land. A busy highway, field of cactus, pack of wild dogs. We eventually landed at an empty soccer field. We sat there for like 10 minutes. And then this guy in this tiny car drove up, beeped his horn. We got in, he drove away. Then I was like, I don't even know if he's with the balloon company. There was a solid minute when I was like, I just volunteered to be kidnapped. I felt guilty because I had hurried my daughters. I was, come on, don't leave the kidnapper waiting. Just imagine how I'd have to explain it to my wife. She's like, how do you force you in the car? Well, we just got in the car. Did he have a weapon? Yeah, he had a horn. But he drove us back to the balloon site. We got back in our filthy van. We drove 2 hours back to our hotel. It was the most expensive, inefficient trip I've ever taken in my life. But my daughters loved it, so I would do it all again. I'm kidding, I'd never do it again. The pandemic did make me contemplate my mortality. I just know when I go, I want it over quick. Like if I'm in a plane crash, I want the plane to explode I'll kill you before we even crash. Maybe the pilot came over the intercom. Hey everyone, it's your captain here. Just wanted to thank you for choosing to fly with us. Special shout out to our silver medallion members. Would have earned 2,000 miles on today's flight, but it looks like we're not going to quite reach 700. Our flight attendant Betty's been with the airline for 31 years, and it appears today's her last day. You can go ahead and take your phone off of airplane mode. Heck, I'm taking the plane off of airplane mode. At this point, we're just a metal box hurling towards the earth. We should have you back on the ground in about 7 seconds. Is that too dark? It's gonna get worse. Right? I do try to travel with my kids whenever I can. I have 5 children, so it's not easy. But because of stand-up comedy, I've been able to take my kids amazing places. And during each of these trips, there's always a moment when I look at my kids and I have the same thought. I could just leave them here. Because it's too hard. It's way too hard to travel with kids. That's why every dad on vacation looks like he lost a bet. You ever see a dad on vacation? They're so confused. There was a... Wait, is this my vacation? But I'm not having any fun.